Hello, fantastical humans of the interwebs. Welcome to eSpot Live. My name is Ellie, and I'm back, joined by Rodney, as always. Oh my goodness. So good to be back. Alright, so we're gonna open up with disclaimers, as we always do. So, if you've been watching, you'll know that Monday's episode was not me. It was the fantastical and awesome and beautiful Hannah, also known as Pandamental, in the chat. She was gracious enough to cover for me at last second because I have been experiencing technical difficulties, the likes of which I have not seen before. Which, if we're being fully honest, doesn't say much because, as you all know, I'm still new-ish to this whole world of, like, streaming and entertainment and video games and life. Anyways, so, here's what I would love from you guys in the chat. I kind of had to tweak some things. One of my teammates put it in a beautiful way. This show is kind of being held together by duct tape and glue right now. So, if for whatever reason things go wonky, please let me know in the chat. I'll do what I can to address it right away. But I do want to give you guys the heads up that my system's running a little bit differently than I would choose to normally do things. But everything seems to be working on my side. My mic's working, the music's working. I've got the chat is just lit right now, which I adore. Thank you guys. And for once, it looks like the internet's kind of cooperating. So yeah, the biggest disclaimer is my whole setup in general is a little bit wonky, so I'm just gonna need your patience and also just let me know, and I'll do what I can to adjust things as we go. But for now, hopefully things are smooth and you can hear and see me, and those are really the biggest aspects. So that's all I really got. Chromosomes in the chat saying, oh my gosh, there's some wonky going on over here. I don't know if you're being serious, if you're mocking me. Either way, just let me know. If you're teasing my use of the word wonky, that's fine, I suppose. But yeah, no, in all honesty, just if something shuts off, let me know. Alrighty. That's pretty much the only disclaimer. I've missed you guys. I'm glad to be back. I am grateful for my team and for Hannah. And Chromosome's flipping tables because he's being silly. Flipping a table with cheese. That's new. Actually, no, I don't think it is new. I think that's what happened last time. We had a whole discussion on cheese and it was beautiful. Alright, that's enough of me being absolutely distracted to start the day. So, I've got some good newsy stuffs for y'all, and I'm excited, and I'm grateful to be here, so let's jump right in to entertainment news of the day. Oh, I see DJ in the chat from YouTube. Hello! I'm doing well today. I'm glad to be here, glad to be back. I apologize for the craziness of Monday, and I thank you guys for your patience. Yeah, and as for what I'm doing, I'm going to babble about some news events in the entertainment industry, because that's what I do on eSpot Live. Thank you for joining. So yeah, let's jump right in. The first thing I have to chat about is actually related to something I covered, I believe, the last time I was here, which was a very controversial Facebook versus Australia that was happening. Not really the competition that I thought was gonna happen, but an interesting one nonetheless. So essentially, just to kind of catch y'all up on it if you missed it, Australia kind of, the Supreme Court in Australia was going back and forth on a bill that would require essentially outlets like Facebook to pay to post news. Facebook did not like that, and so they banned all news from being posted or shared in Australia, and as a result, that actually cut off a lot of important things and kind of silly things. So they didn't just cut off news, but a lot of emergency alerts were cut off. So yeah, there was government health departments were cut off, cancer charities were cut off. There was satirical, like, comedy websites that were inaccessible, video game publishers, the Denver Broncos, if I remember correctly. A bunch of really random things got caught up in this drama. So it was an interesting thing. We've got a little bit of resolution kind of, sort of. So the conclusion to all of this is that Facebook has confirmed that it will be restoring news to its user feeds in Australia after there have been a series of amendments to Australia's original proposed news media and digital platforms mandatory bargaining code. That is a mouthful. If you're gonna write a legal bill or code, just maybe truncate it a little bit. Just for me, because we all know I can't actually English or pronounce things correctly very well. But I did it, so I'm proud of myself. Anyways, back on topic. So these particular amendments are intended to, quote, provide further clarity to digital platforms and news media business about the way the code is intended to operate, end quote. That was according to a joint release from Australian Treasurer Josh Frydenberg and Communications Minister Paul Fletcher. Facebook Global News Partnerships VP Campbell Brown released a statement saying, quote, after further discussion with the Australian government, we have come to an agreement that will allow us to support the publishers we choose to, including small and local publishers. We're restoring news on Facebook in Australia in the coming days. So moving forward, the government clarified that Facebook's going to retain the ability to decide if news appears on Facebook so that they won't automatically be subject to a forced negotiation. Facebook then says, it's always been our intention to support journalism in Australia and around the world. So yeah, it was just this kind of seemingly petty back and forth for a bit there. But it seems like there's been a resolution. I don't know who won in the end there. Just, again, of all the competitions, of all the butting heads that I've expected to see and cover on this show, Facebook versus Australia was not one of them. I, for one, am just glad that they've managed to come to an agreement because, frankly, this is one of those cases where you have two big entities butting heads and the people suffering are the people who can't, like, get emergency service updates locally. So, yeah, in conclusion, I'm glad that they've been able to work it out. If y'all have thoughts and comments, please let me know in the chat. Speaking of which, the chat is lit today, which I adore, so I'm gonna catch up really quick. DJ's in the chat on YouTube asking questions about YouTube and Facebook. Okay, how do people get paid on Facebook? I'm not entirely sure how that works because I'm not important enough to get paid through really any streaming service. That'd be nice. One day. It's a goal, I suppose. But genuinely, I don't know yet too much, especially not about Facebook. YouTube, Twitch, things like that. There's elements of partnerships and affiliations and advertisements. There's a lot that really goes into it, but again, I'm not getting paid by streaming services right now, so I don't know if I have detailed information for you on that. Catching up on the Twitch chat real quick. Paige is here. Hello, Paige is falling. Welcome. Thank you for coming. And Josh, the Lego dude, is also in the chat. Hello, Josh. Good to see y'all. In your words. Good to see your words. Yeah. Cool. All right. Panda's chatting with DJ. This, by the way, I love this. DJ's in the chat on YouTube. Panda's in the chat on Twitch, and we've got some communication going on, and that just, like, makes my nerd heart so happy. Panda's saying if you're referring to Facebook streaming, it's similar to YouTube and Twitch. Once you get an audience, you have the chance to get paid and receive donations that way. Thank you for that. That's very concise, and that's what I was not able to word before. So yeah, there you go. That's how you get paid, through building an audience, essentially, on any platform, really. All right, the next newsy thing to chat about is related to GameStop, because they've just been all over the news recently. GameStop's CFO has officially resigned and was actually paid to do so. Funny how that works in the corporate world. GameStop is continuing to weather ridiculous turbulence right now, including, COVID-19. There's been a massive short squeeze. There's that generally struggling retail business model that's happening right now, especially within the gaming world. And now it must also find itself a brand new chief financial officer. The games retailer announced that CFO Jim Bell was resigning from the company effective March 26th of this year. That's actually really fast in terms of corporate turnover. And the search for a new successor is now underway. However, will they be able to find a permanent successor by the end of March? It's a bit iffy. So they do have a temporary officer who's going to come if no permanent officer is found within that time frame. GameStop has announced it will appoint Senior VP and Chief Accounting Officer Diana Jaje to the role as interim CFO while the search continues, if again they cannot find someone by that March 26th cutoff point. Bell first joined GameStop's leadership role as CFO back in 2019 after he had departed the same role at a holding company, Walk Holdings, prior to that. He took over the role from Rob Lloyd, who had been with GameStop for 23 years. Per SEC filings, Bell was paid a base salary of $700,000 a year. He received a signing bonus of $50,000 when he was hired, and he was eligible for an additional annual bonus equal to his annual salary of $700,000. These numbers are so far above my head. I've never been paid that kind of monies. But it's interesting how, again, this corporate world works, corporate contracts and whatnot, because since he resigned for good reason, per his employment contract, he was actually given, or is going to be given, a severance bonus of $2.8 million, which is twice the sum of his base salary and target annual bonus. That's a lot of money for quitting. I've never gotten paid to quit, so I think I'm just in the wrong field, maybe. Or I have been in the past. And then all of this is coming as the company battles lowered revenues, leadership upheaval, including a recent shareholder shakeup that could spell critical changes for the company as it struggles to stay afloat. It'll also be very interesting to see what comes of GameStop's stock with this particular announcement, because apparently just, I don't know, stocks matter now. That's a weird way to word that. I've never known much about stocks until GameStop, so they're teaching me so many things. I'm learning about corporate leadership, I'm learning about how corporate people get paid to leave companies, and I'm learning about the stock market. It's been a very productive season for me. I'm gonna take this moment to catch up on the chat again. The chat's going on. Chromosome saying that, Panda can't see your post because he's on YouTube. You should be able to see the chat with each other through the main screen if everything's working right. So actually, this is an excellent opportunity for me to ask if you guys can see the chat next to me on the screen. Did that make any sense whatsoever? You won't necessarily be able to chat directly on a multi-stream chat, but you should be able to see each other and respond to each other through the chat bubble on the screen if it's working like it's supposed to be working. But Chromosome's kind of expanding on DJ's questions with creating an audience and getting paid through streaming services, and saying you have to meet a certain quota on YouTube, and YouTube also requires so YouTube requires that quota before you can get paid to begin with. Twitch also has that affiliate status that you need in order to get paid, and then there's the partner status, things of that nature. Silly Fun saying I'm making sense, and Silly Fun's in the chat. Hello, Silly, welcome. Good to see you here. It's so good to be back, guys. I've missed this. Josh the Lego Dude is saying, yes, the chat is working. Okay, cool. That's all I can really do on my end. Okay, for the first time in eSpot Live history, the chat is moving too quickly for me to personally keep up with. Oh my goodness. This brings me such joy. Alright, so I do want to kind of keep up with this a little bit at least. But I adore the fact that people in the chat are able to communicate with DJ, and you've got this back and forth. So, happy with that. I will try to keep up with it as I go, but Oh my goodness, you guys don't know how happy this makes my heart that I can't be all-knowing. I know. Alright, moving right along. I'm gonna jump into Sony, and this is gonna take up actually a few topics. So, yay, consolidation and connection of ideas. Clearly it's not making the transitions any easier or smoother. Anywho, first up to chat about real quick, Call of Duty and Warzone are starting to run into some serious troubles with standard PS4s because they don't fit. So the Battle Royale's popularity absolutely skyrocketed last year, but complaints were quick to roll in about the surging file size. These games are massive in size. And with each passing update, gamers are having to make space on their small little hard drives just to store the original title. So as the just base level Call of Duty Warzone, it takes up a massive amount of space, right? And PS4s, PS5s, they all have limited storage. People were having to delete games and things like that just to get the game, and then with each additional update, it's just taking up so much space that people are like not able to fit just the single game on their PS4 at times. And then now with the arrival of Black Ops Cold War, it's not exactly making things easier on that front, right? So the latest outing also bundles the updates for Warzone. And with that, those with standard PS4s are absolutely feeling the strain on their storage. And some tough decisions need to be made, right? If you want to have Call of Duty in all of its glory available, you're gonna have to kind of, like I said, put off other titles for now. So an official Call of Duty blog post explained, those who own a standard PlayStation 4 with a default hard drive of 500 gigabytes may need to make room if they have the full versions of Modern Warfare / Warzone and Black Ops Cold War with all the modes and packs installed. It added, should you have both games installed and have kept up to date with the updates, you may need to delete some unused game content to have a successful download and install of the Warzone patch tonight. So on each title, you are able to uninstall some of the modes that you don't personally use. For example, if you've already completed the campaign on both Modern Warfare and Black Ops Cold War, you can delete it and free up a bit of that space for the online content. Season 2 update is also now available for download, with the Warzone update weighing in around 17 gigabytes across all platforms. So again, massive amounts of space for each of these updates, and it's to the point where even just kind of playing this game and focusing on this game with all of the updates, you might have to start deleting content to fit it, which is fascinating to me. I'm learning a lot about I've learned a lot about kind of computer storage space and software over the past week with all of my technical difficulties. Still have a lot to learn for sure, but yeah, I'm just comprehending the scope of these games and how much content there is. It's fascinating to me, but also, like, this causes problems. I do remember speaking before about some kind of, like, contention with that, with the fact that PS4, PS5 have that very limited space in the grand scheme of things. So that's all I really have about that. In the chat, Panda's saying, that's the biggest problem I have with Modern Warfare. Not going to even try with Cold War. And Final Fantasy VII Remake. That's very fair. So, yeah. If you are a fan, good luck with storage. I don't know what else to say on that. Also, in the grand scheme of Sony, but slightly better news, Sony has officially announced the PSVR 2. What? Yeah, officially entering the room. PSVR 2. PlayStation fans are very excited for what PS5 has in store for virtual reality. And they now have some new details to peruse. This was published on the official PlayStation blog. There's a piece that's kind of billed as this introduction to PSVR 2, and it reveals the first details of what we can expect from the VR on the PS5. The post states that the PlayStation VR team has taken on board lessons it's learned from the original device, which launched as a peripheral for the PS4 back in 2016. The improvements the team is focused on include better resolution and field of view, as well as upgrades to the device's tracking and input capabilities. But, perhaps best of all, the PlayStation VR on the PS5 will be connected by a single cord. Now, at first run through, I don't have much experience with VR, so I was like, that seems like it's kind of common sense. It's not! The PS4 had multiple wires, multiple adapters, all required. It kind of was a bit messy, which, again, looking back on it, makes a bit of sense, because new technology, there's always a learning curve, so now it's much more streamlined with a single cord, which should make for much less clutter and, more importantly, a much safer playing space. An additional big focus for the team has been on a new VR controller, which is going to integrate innovations found in the PS5 DualSense controller. So there weren't really many specifics beyond that given, but it is possible that these features will include the DualSense's haptic feedback and have similar ergonomics. That sentence was solely put there for my brilliant pronunciation capabilities, I'm convinced. No, but that's all pretty exciting stuff if it is. Like I said, that little bit's not necessarily confirmed, but assuming, we do know they're using DualSense. We shall see. The PSVR 2 blog post admitted that this is just an early update, and we won't be seeing the device on store shelves anytime soon. The PlayStation's wording did confirm that PSVR 2 will not be launching in 2021, so we do have some time to wait on this. The post also added, the development community has started to work on creating new worlds for you to explore in virtual reality. So they're working on games, they're working on the virtual reality system. It's going to be a little bit further out, but they did want to start teasing it. So we know this is something that's going to come. We know the big key things that they're working on developing further, and it's really exciting stuff. So with that announcement, we can expect to start seeing a trickle of PSVR 2 game announcements, hopefully, right? As more about the device is revealed in the future. So, yeah, I am fascinated by VR. I've never personally tried it, but it's definitely on my list as someone new to the gaming community. That is something that I will get to eventually. We'll see when and how, but I'm excited for it. I'm also a little afraid of getting motion sick, but that's a completely different story. But yeah, very excited about this. I love new technology. It goes way over my head, but there's so many really cool options with this. So there you go. Catching up on the chat really quick. We've got a little bit of conversation continuing the limited storage on PS4s, with Panda saying external hard drives are expensive. It's true. And Silly Fun went on to kind of say that game sizes are getting ridiculous now, which is true. But also, I feel like I've read too much dystopian sci-fi to be excited about VR. You know, actually, VR always brings me back to Ready Player One, which, while it is kind of horrendous dystopian sci-fi, it's also a brilliant story and very hopeful. And I kind of adore it a little bit. So, I don't know. I'm excited about it. Honestly, for me, I'm afraid of the motion sickness, and I have issues with my balance. I can say things all day long. I make jokes of it all the time, but I genuinely do have problems with balance. I have fallen over whilst sitting down before. That doesn't happen often, but it does happen. So I'm a bit nervous about being in this VR world and then just, like, getting startled and falling over. But I still want to try it. Maybe I should start sitting down, though. We'll get there when we get there. But I'm excited for it, especially as they begin to add more and more stuff on it. I've always been absolutely obsessed with the idea of having, like, that kind of haptic and sensory additions to the VR as well. So you have the virtual reality, but also you have, like, the potential for certain sensors. So much. I'm excited. Silly saying, pretty sure that's just a ghost pushing you over. It could be, or it could be the fact that I'm missing part of my eardrum and so I have kind of issues with my inner ear, but I like your theory better, if we're being fully honest. I I don't know how I feel about being haunted by a very particular ghost who's just petty and pushes me over, but frankly, of all the things that could happen in a haunting, I'll take it. All that being said, I went way off topic, guys. Sorry about that, but I'm gonna jump back into Sony very specifically to go over the brand new State of Play that just happened. So State of Play happened literally just before eSpot Live, and I was able to catch it. Which was really, really interesting experience for me, because I do try to catch the lives, and we do definitely share information with you, but for the first time I watched it with the chat, just because I was curious, and I learned a lot from the chat. I'm curious too, if any of y'all watched it, let me know in the chat. Meanwhile, I'm gonna go ahead and just go over the basics of what was shared. So, bunch of new announcements, yeah, I'm just gonna jump into kind of what they went over. So first off, they talked a bit about Crash Bandicoot 4. It's about time. So we know that that's being released. We have an official release date for PS5, March 12th, 2021, coming out on PS5. It's gonna feature faster loading times. It's gonna have save transfers, 3D audio support, adaptive triggers, as well as other DualSense features. And the game will now run at 4K/60 FPS, which I kind of know what that means, a little bit. Paige in the chat here is saying I watched it, so I watched State of Play, but only saw the chat at the end. The chat went crazy. I don't know about I know there was like a Twitch chat, and I was watching the YouTube chat in particular, but like, first of all, there was some inappropriate stuff there, which they kind of got past the bots by like, it was creative and disturbing. Second of all, there was a lot of drama that I was not necessarily anticipating, and I heard that the Twitch chat was equally emotional in the responses, which I'll get to a little bit, but I do want to kind of get through what was announced. So that was Crash Bandicoot 4. There was also, in no particular order, a game called Knox City that was recently announced at the latest Nintendo Direct, and so it's got a new look at this State of Play. Knockout City will be released on PS4 on May 21st. It's releasing for $19.99 USD and will have backwards compatibility and enhancements for PlayStation 5 players. So again, this was a game that we kind of knew was coming, but now we know it's coming to PS4. We know when it's coming to PS4. I thought it looked pretty cool. It was a fun concept. Yeah, it's pretty much like epic game of dodgeball. Alright, State of Play also revealed a game called Sifu from Absolver developer Slowclap, and that's going to be releasing on PS4 and PS5. I was a little bit confused at first because it looked like a man fighting in order to grow a beard, and it took me an embarrassing amount of time to realize it was showing the passage of time. We can't all be geniuses. Moving on. Another game announced is Oddworld Soulstorm, which will be released on PS4, PS5 on April 6th of 2021. Furthermore, the PS5 version of that will be one of the PlayStation Plus games for April of 2021. This was a game that was announced as a 2.9D production, which was really, really interesting. So I've been learning a little bit more about 2D games versus 3D games, how they're kind of set up. And so this is... I've never heard of this. Obviously it exists. I'm sure you guys probably know a bit more about it, but this 2.9D was this aspect of it being set up kind of like a 2D game where you're running around, running through the world, but it's got like an expanded dimension a bit. So it's not open world in the same way most 3D games typically are. You're definitely on a set path, but it's got much more depth than your average 2D game. And so I thought that bit was fascinating, but, you know, maybe that's not a surprise for anyone else. I just love learning things, and I'd never seen anything like that before. Because, again, if you're new, I'm brand new to the gaming community. Moving right along. Hyper Light Drifter developer Heart Machine showed Solar Ash, which is arriving on PS4 and PS5 in 2021. Solar Ash is a third-person action platformer. It features a massive scale and really, really focuses on the fluidity of movements. We also got to see the first gameplay of Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach. I felt personally attacked because of my history with Five Nights at Freddy's. For those of you who don't know, we did a Halloween special where the team thought it would be hilarious to have me, who had never played a game before, play Five Nights at Freddy's. And I screamed a lot. I really worked myself up with that because I just have a personal fear of animatronics. I love animatronics, like, on like, movies and stuff like that, but, like, in real life, anything wearing a mask, so, like, or an animatronic type thing, they've always just kind of creeped me out because there's, like, this element of unknown and unpredictability. You can't really do a threat assessment on somebody in a, you know, Easter Bunny costume or an animatronic that does a similar thing. Anyways, Five Nights at Freddy's really freaked me out. This gameplay trailer looked awesome and terrifying, and I hated it, which means it'll probably be good. Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach is going to take players to the Mega Pizzaplex and is said to be the most ambitious Five Nights at Freddy's game yet. And if you saw the trailer, you know why. It's so much more. There's a lot going on. It looked really, really cool. What else? We had a Deathloop trailer, which gave us a new look at a very stylish game from Arcane Studios. That one looked really interesting. There was Returnal, which I know some people at our office were really excited about. This was recently delayed to release on April 30th of 2021, but we finally got this deep dive into the latest state of play. So we got to see a little bit more about Returnal. That again looked really cool. I'm not super into horror, but if it scares me in like a 30-second spot, then it's probably good. So I really like that as well. Kenna, Bridge of Spirits, will be released on PS4 and PS5 on August 24th, 2021. So that was announced. That was another one that looked really, really cool. But people just were being very mean in the comment section, and I feel like I missed some sort of inside joke amongst PlayStation players or something. Anyways. And then, of course, there was the Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade. That was really, really displayed in all of its PS5 glory. It's going to be arriving on PS5 on June 10th, 2021. Not only will the PS5 version be a free upgrade for those who own the PS4 version, but there is a brand new story episode that players can purchase that will feature Yuffie. It looks super fun, super exciting. I loved how they kind of set up that particular trailer, if you will, for lack of a better word, because they showed kind of what it's going to look like on PS4 versus what it's going to look like on PS5 right next to each other. So you could kind of see what differences to expect. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I want to catch up on the chat really quick. So Silly was referencing the, I think the 2.90 game and said, I like that. Open world games are stressful because I feel like I have to explore everything and I don't have time for that. You know, I feel that too. I love, hypothetically, the idea of an open world game. But I don't know if it's because I am new to gaming or if it's because I'm not a particularly visual person, but I just feel so overwhelmed by the, like, concept of an open world game, especially the really massive scale ones. I think it's super cool. Definitely something I want to, like, play with and touch on and get to know a little bit better. But I really did enjoy kind of the look of the, again, they called it 2.9D, where it was still that constrained 2D game setup of following a specific path and doing specific things, but visually you just get a lot more depth to it, a lot more detail in the world. I thought it was really cool. And then Silly also said, it's not like the pizza animatronic places is any good anyways. Right? Come on. There's so many better pizza places you can go to and not be creeped out by, like, animatronic things that, like... How do kids like those? Like, why is that a thing for children? It creeped me out as a child. It creeps me out now. I don't know. And then Paige is saying, I'm excited for Deathloop. That one did look really, really cool. I thought it was interesting. It looked fun. Interesting plotline of just kind of reliving. And I loved the catchphrase, which was, if you don't succeed, die again. That one looked super fun. We've got Silly Fun, who has jumped over to YouTube just to confuse me because Twitch is acting up. Which means this is an excellent time for me to reach out and ask Is Twitch acting up for everyone? Is it on my end? Or is it an issue that's been smoothed over with that particular transition? Please let me know if you guys are noticing anything wonky, Chromosome. Yeah, and then again, so it's saying, I love open world games, they're just too much. I feel that, yeah. Alright, I think this is a perfect time for our regularly scheduled water break. I am the only person who gets this excited about water, but I will never stop lecturing you guys to drink water. I feel like every time this happens, different ideas are brought up. Everybody's like, I like Coke, I like chocolate milk, advertising all of these delicious beverages. I have nothing against these amazing, phenomenal beverages of choice. I am 100% supporting living life to its fullest with all the delicious, sugary, amazing goodness. However, water is important, and there's a time and place. And now is the time for hydration with water. That being said, I'll be right back. See you guys in a minute. Y'all didn't miss me too awfully much. And hopefully you drank some water. I got confirmation from at least one person on my team that they are indeed drinking water, and I am so proud of you. I'm very proud, legitimately. That sounded sarcastic, but yay, water. Alright, that's enough preaching about water for one day. Unless anybody wants to come at me in the chat. In which case I will take you down, because hydration is important. Alright, now I'm actually done. Next up to chat about in newsy topics of the day, we have official confirmation that Bioware has canceled Anthem 2.0, which is quite the bummer for people who are looking forward to that, right? So, it's no secret that Anthem had something of a troubled launch, but fans of the game were really, really placing all their hope in this elusive Anthem 2.0. Waiting for any sort of news on this has been an adventure in and of itself, but now we have official news that the project is canceled. This comes directly from Christian Daly, who's the head of the Anthem reboot project, so there is absolutely no denying its legitimacy, unfortunately, for people, again, who are really looking forward to this. In summary, Daly kind of explains that the team that was working on Anthem is going to now be dedicating its resources towards other things, like Dragon Age, Mass Effect, and Star Wars: The Old Republic. Those were just kind of the ones he named. Anthem released on February 22nd of 2019, and just recently celebrated its 2-year anniversary, so that was probably what prompted both BioWare and EA to reevaluate its plans for Anthem and figure out what the best way forward was. In the official statement, Daly gives a little bit more insight on what went into the decision to cancel Anthem 2.0. In his message, he gives 2 main reasons why development on Anthem 2.0 is no longer happening. The first reason will not or should not come as a surprise really to anybody, and it's because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Daly says outright that BioWare's plans for 2020 and beyond have been directly impacted by the pandemic, and that it simply is not possible to do all of the things that it had intended to do without putting undue stress on its workers and putting them in really unsafe situations. The last part's really particularly sensible, right? Especially as gamers have recently been rallying against crunch culture and the exploitation of video game developers. So as that's been more and more publicized, it's a good time to acknowledge the fact that the pandemic impacts that culture even more. And so they did acknowledge it, unfortunately, by stepping back from a particular game. Beyond this, Daly also goes on to explain that BioWare as a team really needs to laser focus its efforts into creating the best Dragon Age and Mass Effect games that it can. These titles are obviously more established among fans than Anthem, so it really does make sense from that business perspective to take this approach to focus in on the games that they know are already doing well, right? It's interesting that he also mentions Star Wars: The Old Republic, reassuring fans that the online game will continue to receive quality updates and new content. So they're not giving up on everything to focus on one thing, but they are setting aside Anthem 2.0 to focus on the things that they know fans, frankly, are going to purchase. So, and then in closing, Daly goes on to explain that this is very upsetting for him personally and the team that worked together really hard on Anthem 2.0, but he says he's still very proud of all the work that they did. Fans have really been speculating about how much of a chance Anthem 2.0 really had, and now we have the answer to that loud and clear. It is certainly disappointing for fans, again, who have been looking forward to this, for anyone who's been following that development process really closely. But it is also really nice that BioWare chose to give those fans some closure by revealing that the project was canceled, instead of just kind of leaving it up in the air as guesswork or a maybe or something in the future with just like tapering off of updates. So good on them. I think that was the correct decision in how to handle it. And yeah, sorry for any of you guys who were specifically looking forward to that. But alas, hopefully you also like Mass Effect and Dragon Age. That's how that works, right? You can just swap out games. I don't know. That was like probably blasphemy to gamers. I apologize. I was trying to make a joke. Don't joke about things you do not understand. Also, just checking in real quick. The chat got super quiet all of a sudden, so I want to make sure that it's still working and that you guys can still hear me. I feel like somebody would have let me know if like I just didn't show back up after my water break, so I'm gonna assume you guys can and move on, but please, yeah, let me know if anything's a bit wonky, because I always have catchphrases. I end up having things that I say all the time in a given episode. Today's is apparently wonky, so we're gonna just embrace it, embrace the awkward, and run with it. And yeah, keep me updated in chat. I feel all alone! No, I'm kidding. Anyways. Okay. We've got Silly Fun in the chat, so it looks like it's working. They're saying it's sad, but good on them for telling everyone, and for not repeating their mistakes if they don't think that they can do a proper second launch. I concur wholeheartedly. I think that what I'm learning is that regardless of what developers and companies and all this stuff do, there's always going to be backlash. There's always going to be somebody who thinks that they could have done something better. But I have massive amounts of respect for people who are just upfront with where they're at. And I think that they were. I think that they saw potential. I think they poured everything into it. And then I think they realized that that was not the direction that the company needed to go. And they were upfront with their fans about that. So, again, bummer news, but I love how it was handled. I just appreciate it. Next up to chat about, completely different topic here, but we have the official title for Spider-Man 3, as well as a release date. Woohoo! Alright, so there's been a lot of back and forth on the name of Spider-Man 3, whether or not it's actually back and forth or just so Marvel Studios kind of playing around a little bit with their audience. We now know that Spider-Man 3 is officially titled Spider-Man No Way Home. Alright, Alright, so Marvel Studios and Sony Pictures Entertainment's collaboration on the web-slinging hero has come a very long way since it first started back in 2015. I didn't realize it had been that long, guys. Dang. Just the Marvel Cinematic Universe is so all-encompassing. It's been part of my life for so long, but I just don't realize that it's been so long. And then Silly saying, you mean it isn't Spider-Man Phone Home? It is not. It is not Spider-Man Phone Home. Maybe it should be, though, because I feel like that was one of the most popular joke titles. Anyway, so, again, back 2015, we saw the introduction, then Tom Holland's Peter Parker debuted in Captain America Civil War, and since then he's appeared in a Marvel Cinematic Universe film every year. That includes 2 solo movies, as well as 2 Avengers projects. So it's been wildly successful. I can only really speak for myself when I say I adore Tom Holland's Spider-Man. I do. That's not to say I don't adore the others, because I loved parts of really all the different ones that I've seen, but I feel like Tom Holland does an amazing job of Peter Parker and Spider-Man, and I think that's just really cool. Paige in the chat is mentioning No Way Home sounds a little worrying for Spidey, right? That's true. But it looks like with this new standalone adventure been announced, we don't actually know too much about the plot details yet for Spider-Man 3, but it sounds like it's shaping out to be one of the most interesting MCU projects for Phase 4, right? Holland and other filmmakers have been very, very mum about narrative specifics, which tells me they probably haven't told Tom Holland the plot yet, because I feel like we'd already know if he knew. Does that mean? Anyways. All of them have really been hyping the project. They're currently in the middle of production. Several set images have made their way online, which kind of has been giving hints. And then, more recently, Marvel Studios and Sony Pictures Entertainment have started marketing the film with the release of the first look at the movie, as well as some fake titles, because they're just trolling the public, which is a glorious thing. I think it's funny. But we finally got the official title, No Way Home. It is very concerning, but alas, the news was shared in a phenomenal way. You can check it out. It's on YouTube, amongst other things, I'm sure. Essentially, there's this video featuring Tom Holland and his co-stars Zendaya and Jacob Batalon. I think I butchered his last name. I'm sorry, Jacob. Anyways, the video references the fake title series, and yeah, kind of like it's got the hat tip to all of those. It's really funny. You get to see the chemistry of the 3 interacting together. There's even a, reference to the fact that Tom Holland is known for spoiling things. It's a fantastic little teaser. I love watching the 3 of them together, like even just in interviews and stuff like that. It's always fun to watch them just kind of bounce off of each other. So check out the fun little teaser. Obviously there were so many names, so many fake names that were kind of like bounced around. Like Spider-Man Phone Home, that one was referenced in the chat. Spider-Man Home Slice. And then Spider-Man Home Wrecker. There's like Spider-Man Homeschool. There was a bunch of them. It was fantastic. Check it out. Anyways, really was the perfect vehicle to really just kind of amp up that hype and anticipation. It's really fun and exciting to know the official title, especially after all the fake outs. Just brilliant marketing strategy there all the way around. Audiences have been speculating about the actual name since it was first announced. And then No Way Home was actually trending on Twitter just ahead of the reveal. So whether that means it was leaked or people just kind of were leaning in that direction and guessing wrote well. Most people are assuming, again, we don't really have many details about the film yet, but most people are assuming that No Way Home is going to focus on the multiverse, which makes the title make a bit of sense, but also is still concerning. It's very possible that Holland's Spider-Man will find himself in a different world, different timeline. I'm personally rooting for multiple Spideys. I want them to bring in Tobey Maguire. I want them to bring in Andrew Garfield. This is entirely Ellie's, wants for the movie. Nothing to do with what's actually been released. Want to make that clear. No guarantees. It's just what I want. But, I'm super excited about the possibility of it being a multiverse, a live-action multiverse. With so many rumors and reports already swirling around, apparently also being started by me now, the newly revealed title is really only going to increase that speculation. But hopefully more information will be revealed as the movie nears its release on December 17th, 2021. I am choking on my words. See? Water. Yeah, so we know it's coming out this year, December 17th, 2021, which means that more is coming. We just don't have it yet, so super excited about that. Just gonna catch up in the chat real quick. Silly's in the chat on YouTube saying, I really wanted to see Tom Holland in a hoodie with E.T. in his bike basket. You know, I bet that they're gonna have a teaser or something like that just for funsies. I feel like that's something Tom Holland would do. I don't know him, but I mean, that'd be pretty cool. But I just imagine that's something that they play around with. Anyways. Silly Fun's also asking, have there been any sort of official confirmation that it's going to be about the multiverse, or is that just speculation? Right now, that's just speculation. They've really released nothing. They've just been... There's been hints, people have been putting it together, but there's no official confirmation yet. And then they're saying, I'm very torn because I'm not sure they can do justice to Miles Morales into the Spider-Verse. I think in order for this to be... if it is a multiverse, guys... Nobody better be quoting, oh, Ellie from eSpot Live said this is happening. This is speculation. So if they do a multiverse, they, I think, are really going to kind of have to press into embracing all of the live-action Spideys that have existed. Because if they try to, in any way, shape, or form, compete with or even emulate Miles Morales, it's not going to work for them. Because Into the Spider-Verse was a masterpiece. Fight me. It was amazing. It was incredible. Very well done. And so I think if they're trying to do a live-action version of that, it's not going to do well. I have faith in the production team and the actors that they won't go down that path. Because really they don't need to. There's plenty of other options. But I think that there's a lot of potential for doing that hat tip, breaking the first wall. First wall? Just the first one. Not the fourth one. Anyways, breaking the fourth wall and connecting with the audience, people who have been watching the Spider-Man series get rebooted over and over again. I think that there's just potential there, and I'm excited for that. And I think I'm pretty decent at kind of conceptualizing things uniquely. I've said this before with kind of the books versus movie thing. I see them as two different stories. And so this has to be separate from Into the Spider-Verse, and I really think it will be if they decide to go down this path. And it's really fun. Chef's kiss. So yes, that's what I want to see. I want to see a full-on fourth wall breaking, meme-ified, making fun of itself hat tip to all of the Spider-Mans that we've seen in my lifetime. So somehow this turned from announcement of the new title to Ellie's opinions on Spider-Man. Yeah, with all that, let's move on. The next topic I have has absolutely nothing to do with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's yet another acquisition! Yay! I'm learning so much about business, you guys. This particular acquisition is HP acquiring HyperX. So PC gaming is a massive business right now, obviously. But over the past couple of years, within the pandemic, we've seen massive growth there. And with that, some companies are really taking steps in order to guarantee a larger piece of that pie. HP is one of them. They've announced plans to acquire gear maker HyperX, whose products regularly make their way onto best of lists for gaming peripherals. That was a tongue twister of a sentence. HP announced the deal on Wednesday, purchasing HyperX for $425 million. The purchase still requires regulatory approval. That will likely take several months. So with acquisitions, I feel like when I announce them on the show, sometimes they're done deals. This is not one of those. It's a done deal in that the agreement between the companies have been made. But in order to prevent monopolies and things of that nature, there is an approval process where an outside force has to determine that it is okay for a company to buy this other company without it turning into a monopoly and blocking other people. So that has yet to take place. That's not a quick process, so it's going to be some time before this is all official, but the intent is there, the price has been set, etc. Oh, where am I at? Sorry, I got distracted by the chat really quick. Since I got distracted by the chat, Silly in the chat was clarifying that the chef's kiss was with regards to Into the Spider-Verse. I concur. All of it. Alright, focusing back on the topic I'm meant to be talking about right now. So yeah, it's going to be a few months before it's official because of that regulatory process. HyperX is a subsidiary of Kingston Technology, well known as a source of reasonably priced quality gaming peripherals. This is including mice, keyboards, SSDs, as well as a successful line of gaming headphones, and other things as well. Just all of those things that go with gaming, aside from the game, hence peripherals. Anyways, Kingston's going to continue to manufacture RAM, SSD, and other PC hardware. So PC gamers need not wave goodbye to that company as a whole, but this particular subsidiary, HyperX, is going over to HP and has been the corporation's main gaming-oriented branch. So it looks like Kingston's going to kind of maintain their overarching computer hardware. Is that the right word? Yes. Like PC hardware materials as an overarching umbrella, but relinquishing their focus, I suppose, on gaming in particular. This deal's not really surprising to people who have been following HP and are aware of their attempts to really push into that PC gaming market. The corporation already offers a range of gaming accessories. HP's seen the most success with its Omen brand, including both peripherals and a line of gaming PCs and laptops. The company also manufactures gaming variants of their popular Pavilion line of computers. Meanwhile, HyperX recently revealed its new ChargePlay Duo controller charging station for Xbox One and Xbox Series X controllers. The PC gaming hardware industry may be worth as much as $70 billion by the year of 2023, so we're expecting massive growth within that industry. HP also expects that the peripherals market alone is going to grow to more than $12 billion over the next few years. HP's president and CEO Enrique Lores is quoted as saying, "We see significant opportunities in the large and growing peripherals market. And the addition of HyperX to our portfolio will drive new sources of innovation and growth for our business." End quote. So while that $12 billion estimate includes non-gaming related hardware, gamers make up a massive and growing percentage of that particular market. Kingston, for its part, believes that the acquisition benefits both HyperX, its employees, and its customers. CEO and co-founder John Tu said that, pretty much said as much in the joint press release announcing the merger. He explains how Kingston and HP share core values such as putting customers and employees first. Whatever you feel about that particular sentiment, with different track records or whatnot, it's good to have that core value. Anyways, moving on. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see where HP moves forward with this particular acquisition. Whatever you might think of the company's own products that they've had up until now, they know how to pick a brand. I think it's going to be very successful for them. Moving right along to a topic which I feel will be never-ending for gamers, and that is the topic of banning video games. Once again on the table. This time it is Chicago, Illinois' leadership taking charge, leading this assumption. Chicago wants to ban all violent video games. there's so many implications there, so I'm going to jump in. So right now, Representative Marcus C. Evans Jr. has officially filed documents to make changes to an already present 2012 law to make it possible to ban violent video games to minors in the state, specifically and especially titles like Grand Theft Auto, after a reported rise in carjackings and overall violent crimes have been noted. The notion is being discussed. It falls under House Bill 3531 and aims to ban the retail sale of all, quote, violent video games, end quote, for Illinois residents. What constitutes as a violent video game to them? According to the bill, it is a game that allows a user or player to control a character within the video game that is encouraged to perpetuate human-on-human violence in which the player kills or otherwise causes serious physical or psychological harm to another human or an animal. According to a recent report from the Chicago Sun-Times, the rate of violent crimes and carjackings has increased, with 218 reports solely from the month of January alone. This Chicago representatives are claiming that video games like Grand Theft Auto are providing inspiration for these type of criminal activities, and that banning them would be safer for all communities affected. So what happens if this bill is passed, but the sale continues? What's the penalty for that? Penalty. Penalty. The bill proposes a $1,000 fine for anyone that buys, rents, or sells a game that falls under this classification. Also included in the definition of a violent video game, as detailed in the bill, is any game that includes carjacking, which they're looking to classify as something that causes serious physical harm. Now, I'm putting this in quotes, not to downplay crime in any way, shape, or form. Not to downplay the seriousness and violent nature of carjacking. I have so many thoughts on this, and I'm trying to get my brain together. Catching up on the chat, silly fun, saying that's ridiculous. I've played GTA, and I've only mugged 2, maybe 3 people, and I was carjacking long before I played GTA. That's funny. I approve. All this said, okay, there have been so many studies on whether or not video games impact violent culture, and the answer is still no. I don't remember the last one I shared. I've shared at least 2 since I started eSpot Live, which was less than a year ago. I've shared at least 2 official 10+ year studies going, hey, video games don't make people violent. Do you know what makes people violent? What increases crime in an area like that? Poverty. To be 100% point blank. Obviously, that's not the only thing, but you take a community that is already dealing with poverty, already deals with high violent crimes, and you add a pandemic where these people who have been stripped of everything, crime is going to go up. That's not a good thing. That's not something I want to justify. That's not something I want to say lightly at all. But turning around as somebody who creates laws, who takes care of a group of people, who is responsible for a group of people, looking at increasing crime rates in the middle of a pandemic, and turning around and just like slapping a fine on some video games, it bothers me. And I try to be careful to stay at least somewhat neutral. I can share my opinions. I do share my opinions on eSpot Live, but I don't know all. And I try to be clear about that. And again, I don't want to downplay the seriousness of the state of what's going on and everything like that by any means, but like this just bothers me on a fundamental level that these key people who are responsible for governing and taking care of a group of people are just kind of turning around and I feel like they're making light of the situation in a lot of ways because they're just snatching onto the first scapegoat they can find. Like I said, studies have been done. Studies are in continuous states of being studied. That did not English properly, but it's fine. I think you guys know what I mean. This is a topic that is being studied. It has been studied, it is being studied, and there's so far no evidence to support this aside from just what media's been pushing, because it's an easy scapegoat. So yeah, there's that. Also worth mentioning that this is not the first time this has happened, and the Supreme Court has actually ruled against it. There's a precedent that's already been set, so it just feels like even more of a waste of people's time. I'm also learning a bit about politics, but you know what? Let's not go there. So the state of California had a similar thing. They tried back in 2011. The Supreme Court ruled against the state, stating that the banning of sales of games, especially to minors, would be an infringement on free speech. So the precedent has been set, not just generally, but by literally the Supreme Court. We've been there, done that. When I say the precedent has been set in legal cases, the determination of a legal case in general is very, very heavily impacted by whether or not there's precedent that has been set in the past. And so we see that in essentially every level of lawsuit or of really any criminal proceeding or anything that happens in a court is lawyers, their job is to find cases that have already been decided in the past and use them as evidence to determine what should be decided in the present. That's how our legal system works. And so not only, again, are they finding a scapegoat, just slapping a violent label on something and like slapping a fine on an already impoverished community, but they're doing so knowing that precedent is set against them. And so it just feels to me like very much a wasted scapegoat of just a way to kind of brush off responsibility. I should be careful with this because, again, I really don't want to go too far into this rabbit hole. My disclaimer is I have a background in criminology, and so these things matter to me very much. Moving right along, again, numerous reports have already stated there is no direct correlation between violence and video games, despite that narrative being sold by mainstream media for decades now. It really does feel like an endless battle, and frankly, as long as video games exist, so will this argument. It's the same with literally everything, books and movies and all these things. There's always a push back against whatever is new that the young people are engaging with. And so this one continues. Obviously, gonna keep an eye on it like we do with all our court cases. If anything new comes of it, we will let you guys know. And yeah, I'm gonna wrap up that topic, but first I'm gonna jump into the chat real quick because I do see Silly Fun saying something. It's easier, quicker, and cheaper to try to score political points than to address structural issues. That's very, 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 very true. And then research has also repeatedly shown that juvenile offenders overall grow out of delinquent behavior. That's also true. There's so many elements to this. Also, in addition to that, research has also been done suggesting that young adults who are kind of in that place of desperation that typically encourages crime, who have something else to do with their time, like, I don't know, play video games, are actually less likely to commit crimes. So I'm gonna end it there, and we'll move right along before I dig myself into an even deeper hole. This next topic is more speculation. I'm gonna just start it with that. Don't want to get in trouble. But it's a fun one. Okay, so Xbox head Phil Spencer has sparked a bunch of speculation about maybe Kojima and Nintendo partnerships, ? So, Phil Spencer is kind of known for teasing things in the background of certain, like, releases and videos. And he seems to possibly be teasing the possibility, there's a lot of possibles, of Hideo Kojima or even a Nintendo partnership. There are a number of possibilities. Again, nothing aside from speculation at this point. None of this has been confirmed. But Spencer has been known to hide stuff behind him on live streams and Zoom calls. And these are kind of like hints. The internet's in an absolute frenzy on this right now. So last year, Spencer had hidden an Xbox Series S on a bookshelf that was behind him. And then following that, there were even hints in his office that Microsoft was buying Bethesda. All of this clearly has come to pass. So now, fans are hunting for even more clues, always hoping to see if there's more hints to the future of Xbox, whether that's acquisitions, new hardware, anything else. And so, during Microsoft's AI and Gaming Summit, Phil Spencer had a lot going on in what appears to be his office at the Microsoft campus. So, amongst all of his various Xbox gear, gaming collectibles, fans noticed two very key things via Wario64. So the most notable thing that was noticed was that Spencer has a figure of Kojima Productions' official mascot, Ludens. The weird astronaut holds a big flag with the Kojima Productions logo, but the placement of the figure is what fans latched onto. Phil Spencer has made no secret of the fact that he plays on all platforms and loves all games. So it's highly likely that he has played Death Stranding. But placing the figure right next to a big, bright Xbox logo, that feels like might be a little bit more meaning behind it. Kojima Productions is not owned by PlayStation, but the company did partner with the Japanese developer to fund Death Stranding. It is entirely possible that Kojima worked out a deal to bring the game to other platforms after a certain amount of time. And with rumors of an extended edition coming to PS5 with new story content, it is not impossible to imagine it also coming to Xbox. The game is already available on PS4 and PC, so again, it's not an impossibility to think that it could be coming to all these other platforms. Also, a Nintendo Switch can be spotted in the background of the broadcast, which could be hinting at a Game Pass finally coming to the platform. Or, it could just be where he keeps his Switch. There's that too. Again, all of this could mean nothing. It could mean everything. All speculation. All just fun. That being said, it's really hard to, put it past Phil Spencer to drop big hints in his office. So, I feel like, I don't know, maybe if he realizes people are going to be looking for it, maybe he wouldn't be as obvious about it, or maybe that's what he wants. Maybe he put the Easter egg front and center on purpose. Who knows? Who knows? But it is likely that Xbox is going to be making some sort of reveal later this year. And then if there's any substance to any of these possible hints, it could be some really exciting stuff. Catching up in the chat real quick. Silly saying, does that mean we need to start watching the background of your streams for hints? Is there meaning behind Rodney besides his awesomeness? Chromosome says, could be. Silly Fun says, confirmed. Rodney is my emotional support dog. He emotionally supports me. That's his deeper meaning. And that's all I have to say on this particular topic. Moving right along. I feel like that was a very special face. Anyways. Gosh, yet another just terrifying thing about doing these things live is it's on the internet now. Always. Cool. And then Silly saying, sorry, Ellie, that's an oldish joke about Half-Life 3, which was hinted at for a long time. Oh, Half-Life 3 confirmed. Got it. Thank you. Because that went way over my head. Alright. The last thing I want to chat about real quick is an exciting thing happening tomorrow. Pokemon Presents live presentation is announced. So tomorrow, February 26th, the Pokemon Company has officially revealed and announced that it will be airing the latest presentation in its Nintendo Direct-style Pokemon Presents series. Looking forward to it. So it's going to be streamed on YouTube at 7 a.m. Pacific Time, 10 a.m. Eastern Time, 3 p.m. GMT, 4 p.m. CET. I'm going to repeat those time zones because I got confused there. Alright, so, gonna repeat this. 7 a.m. PT, so if you live on that coast, I'm sorry, that's early. 10 a.m. ET. 3 p.m. GMT, and 4 p.m. CET. So for fans around the world, there you go. Those are the times. It's expected to last roughly 20 minutes. There have been 0 details released on what we can expect to see, but if you are a Nintendo or Pokemon fan, be sure to check it out. We're going to be watching it. We're also going to keep you guys updated. I'll probably have a recap of it on Monday. And yeah, that's all we have. So thank you so much for joining me for eSpot Live today. As always, just myself and the DVSI team want to thank you for tuning in, for all your continued support, but I just want to go above and beyond and thank you guys. Thank you for just all of your support with the technical difficulties I've been experiencing, for your patience, for supporting Hannah, for just all of it. Thank you to my team for supporting me and to my amazing friends who have also been troubleshooting with me. Yeah, I don't have anything specific to promote today outside of our social medias, Steam page. Check out Awoken on Steam. There's some just, I feel like saying this all this time, but like legitimately, there's some really exciting things happening. We're just working on building a bunch of cool stuff that I am so excited to share with you guys. I cannot thank you enough for everything. It's so good to be back today. And I look forward to seeing you guys in the chat again on Monday. In the meantime, make sure that you're staying hydrated. Love yourselves and others. Be kind, be safe, be healthy. Thank you guys. Yeah, I'll be back Monday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. 3 p.m. if you live on the other coast. I haven't worked out the other time zones yet, so there you go. Most importantly, as always, stay devious.